Hello and welcome to another exciting episode of Can It Take a K26, the show where we take a variety of blasters and see if they can be upgraded using a K26 spring. I am your host, Captain Xavier, and today's episode is part of my never-ending quest to build more and better shotgun pistols. I am hoping to, if this works out well, we'll be able to build an entire loadout of shotgun pistols, which will be fantastic. So, we're going to be looking at blasters that have multiple barrels and some sort of a selecting AR, and hopefully we can in fact put a heavy spring in them and remove the AR system so that it will fire all the barrels at once. That's the goal. Let's take a look at our contestants. Our first contestant is therefore the Buzz Ultratech Jem. This blaster was originally released in 2015. There were several different variants. I don't know how many of them I have. It obviously has 3 barrels, it directly primes from the back, and I assume it has some sort of an internal rotating mechanism that switches between the barrels. The goal, of course, is to get enough power out of this thing for it to be able to fire all 3 barrels at once, so let's find out if it can take a K26. Sure enough, it has a rotating cylinder. Rather, it has a rotating plunger tube. Good, solid catch mechanism. So, the way this thing works is it's got 3 holes on the barrels and 4 holes on the back of the plunger tube, and it rotates 1/12 of a rotation, which means 1 barrel lines up every rotation. And we need to make it so that they're all open. And I suppose the easiest way would be to simply cut out all the way around the inside. Okay, so we've drilled it out, and now all of the holes are exposed. The other thing we need to remove is the rotation mechanism. And I've been able to remove the pin, which should remove this piece, that should keep it from rotating now. Alright, so we've got the plunger tube glued to the barrel, so all that remains is to button it up and hope it works. And I need one more dart. Where'd it go? Give me a dart. Dart! Squire! Flash me a dart! Alright, here we go. Will it fire all 3? No. Right. Where was I? Oh yeah. I was here. Okay, so currently this one will take K26, it will catch, but it's not firing all 3 at once very well. And this could be because it's not getting a good enough seal, or it could be that it just doesn't have the power. So we're going to see if we can't improve the seal a little bit, and see if we can't get more than 5 feet out of it. If not, we will declare this experiment a failure and move on with the quest. Nope. I am unfortunately going to have to call that while it can take K26, which if you leave the rotation mech in place, would improve it considerably, it just does not have a large enough plunger tube, as you can see this is kind of small, to be able to fire 3 at once with any force. I'm getting maybe 5-10 feet, which I could throw the darts better than that. So, tragically, no shotgun pistol here, but yes to a K26, should you so desire. On to the next contestant! Our next contestant is the Buzz Ultratech Star, which is kind of the big brother of the Jem. It's a little bit larger in most dimensions, and it also has a top prime instead of a rear prime, which, as we've seen in the past in this show, generally doesn't bode well. But I'm hoping it is stout, much like the Baron is, and that it may, in fact, be able to take a K26, but let's find out. Alright, now a bit of a time warp here because I started doing this one before I finished the previous one, and this is the beauty of movies and editing in general. But as you can see, the internals on this one are actually identical to the internals on the Jem, and as such, there's no way that it's going to be able to have enough power to fire 3 darts at once with this small plunger tube, and what's more, because of the indirect priming mechanism, this one isn't even catching. Now, you might be able to get it to catch if you shortened the spring a little and added a padded plunger head, But the other issue that I was having was the design on the priming handle is such that with this much spring load, it's really hard to even get a good enough grip to be able to even try to prime it. So I'm unfortunately going to call this one a failure as well, and at this point, scrap it for parts. That is both a no to K26 and a no to making it a shotgun pistol. You could almost certainly do a spring upgrade of some kind if you wanted one of these. On to the next contestant. Rubbish. Our next contestant is the Buzzbee Air Warriors Ultratech Wizard. This is basically exactly like the Star, except it has 4 barrels instead of 3. But I'm willing to bet the internals are, other than that, identical, which does not bode well. But let's pop it open just to make sure. Where'd my screwdriver go? Yeah, that's exactly the same. However, I've had a thought, which I've been known to do from time to time. Yeah, so this one's essentially the opposite, where the previous ones had 3 holes on the barrels, of course, and 4 on the cylinder. This has 3 on the cylinder and 4 on the barrel, which results in the same essential mechanism. And actually, the Wizard is a little bit bigger. Here, then, is the conundrum. Is there some way that I could make it fire 2 at a time? So 3 at a time didn't work. But this one is a slightly bigger plunger tube, so I'm going to try 2 at a time. I'm going to do this by drilling an additional hole across from each of the current holes, which I think will math. That does in fact create the correct rotation. Now, we just need to increase the spring. Now we established that K26 was a bit too much. We weren't getting sufficient compression, and it was too hard to prime. So we're going to go for something lesser. We've got plenty of room in the plunger tube, so can we find a spring? We obviously don't want to use the same spring, because then we really won't get enough compression, but if we can, well, that is just the same one. We need one that's either a little bit smaller or a little bit bigger. That might just work. Woo! Yes! Success! I did not try to put a K26 in it because, like I said, I don't think it would have caught. But with the upgrade spring that I put in it, I haven't the foggiest idea what it was. It came from the bin. It is shooting 2 darts at a time quite satisfactorily. Don't ask me to chrono it because chronoing multiple rounds just never works out well. Lovely! On to the next contestant. Our next contestant is the Nerf Zombie Strike Crosscut. The Crosscut was originally released in 2016 as part of the Zombie Strike line, and was one of the first ones that have the nifty little spinning blades built into it, through the use of this lower trigger, which I rather like. I'm not a huge fan of the whole looks like it's made out of garbage motif, but it is essentially a double strike. It's got 2 barrels that use the Smart AR system, but it is direct prime, which means we might just be able to get a K26 in here, as I'm hoping that this is essentially a cross between a Night Finder and a double strike. So, we're going to see if we can get a K26 in it, and if so, we're going to go ahead and try to take the ARs out and see if we can't get it to fire both rounds at once. And I don't know what I will do with the blade. I may leave it, or I may do what I've seen people do, which is turn it into a dart holder. Either of those would be acceptable to me, but let's get it open and find out. Ah, screwdriver. Well, that actually comes off of there quite cleanly. There you have it. Ooh, nice, strong catch spring. And, oh, merciful heavens. A removable? I'm so happy. Okay, what do we got? That's going to be too short. That's going to be just the right length. You hear that, Walcott? Just the right length. Already got a padded plunger head, so that's good. Well, It catches, it fires, but the lower barrel is firing at decidedly lesser velocity. And I suspect this is a holdover from the Smart AR. Ladies and gentlemen, I have cut my thumb fairly significantly, so I'm going to glue it shut. All right. Alright, that was a yes for the Crosscut, yes for K26, and yes for being turned into a shotgun pistol. There was some significant internal modifications that had to be done. I had to remove the whole Smart AR and then drill some additional holes to get good airflow. I also had to modify the plunger rod in order to get enough compression. The blaster was not getting enough compression, and I couldn't shorten the K26 without ending up with spring rattle, which I don't like. So I cut the catch notch a little bit longer so that it could catch. And it is working quite beautifully. Alright then, let us recap. Alright, for those of you keeping score at home or who just skipped to the end to see the results, that was a yes for the Jem for K26, but a no to being turned into a shotgun pistol. The plunger tube is just too small to be able to fire 3 darts at once. That was a no to K26 for the Star, because of the priming mechanism, couldn't get it to catch, and a no to shotgun pistol because it uses the same plunger tube as this one does. And while that was a no to K26 for the Wizard, that was a yes to a sizable spring upgrade, and a yes to making it into a shotgun pistol that fires 2 and then 2, which makes me very happy because that makes it one of the more functional shotgun pistols I currently have. So I'm happy with that. I would love to see it be direct prime instead of this indirect slide prime. I would also like to see it have a trigger guard and a bigger handle because that's just annoying. But those are cosmetic things that can be fixed functionally. It is pretty much exactly what I was looking for. And finally, that was a yes for the Crosscut for both K26 and being turned into a 2-shot shotgun pistol. This one I'm also going to do some cosmetic stuff too because I really like the blaster, but I would like it to be holsterable, and I'd like it to not look like it's made out of junk as much. However, I may keep it just because the blade is at least in my colors. I may just paint it up, keep the blade, maybe even go ahead and paint all of the details in a little bit more just to make it look fancier, and maybe use it for a zombie loadout. I'd have to find some way to holster it though, which is going to be difficult with that saw blade. With the saw blade off, it would holster quite beautifully. So, there you have it. A couple of yeses for shotgun pistols. I happen to have a bunch more of these, which makes me happy, so I can do that shotgun pistol loadout that I've been talking about. I'm going to need to... These will be easy to make holsters for because they're very rectangular. And that's going to be a lot of fun going forward. So, if you have any suggestions, comments, concerns, questions, ideas, things you'd like to see in a future episode, go ahead and put them in the comments below. And as always, thank you for watching.